And now for our next thing then, some game-related things in this week in World of Warcraft. Right, there's a tribute to the Windrunners that has been added in 925. It's where this mysterious piece of highborn music comes from. Basically, there are some family mementos that are just sitting around in the spire, and if you click on the harp, it does indeed play that music. You see this like nice little scene plays.
Yep.
Very Lost Codex is who broke this one.
Yeah, very who broke the story, not broke this.
Broke the game.
Yeah. This is very Lament of the Highborn.
Yes.
Vibes, which I think is very, very nice content. I guess it's just the thing of, in a world where all of the other problems didn't exist, this would be a super nice touch. Yeah. As it is a super nice touch, but one that people will go, oh yeah, please, more Sylvanas lore, woohoo.
Yeah, but they need to carry it through. Them finally doing the Lirath stuff. It's like good, makes sense. If only this, you're right. If only all of this had been dealt with better in game, and a scene like this could have a lot more impact. But I think for the people who follow that character, read the novel, did all that stuff, and then go here, it'll probably be a nice little moment for them.
It'll hit like a fucking bus. But
yeah. So look, it's just nice to see more things like this. This is the sorts of things we want to see them do more in the game. So when we see them do it, it's like, okay, yeah, some people might be tired of Windrunner stuff. But it's the right thing for them to be doing, right? So it's the right thing. Definitely does get the praise. Next then. It's like every week we come here, there's even more sepulcher nerfs. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was getting ready to just go into hyper rage mode about this again. I did that last week, never mind.
So what can we learn from this, everyone? Pretty simple. This raid is not hitting their targets.
Nope.
In terms of player success. Now, there's a few different reasons. Some of that could be the raid. Some of that could be aspects of gearing. But thinking about that, I mean, we have our 4 pieces. We have so much stuff, right? So evidently some things in balancing didn't miss the mark. This is something I kind of ad-libbed on in the WoW News video that comes out tomorrow, but I wonder, do they have a situation now where the delta between the average Mythic Raider and the Race to World First competitor is now higher than it ever has been?
Of course.
Not really because of those players themselves, I mean some of that, but because of the immense levels of optimization that are going on, right? And maybe that means that where in the past they could do Mythic and then nerf it a bit after the race, it's like maybe now it needs even more nerfs than a raid would have previously or something like that, and they have to be conservative with nerfs because if they nerf it way too much, they can't really then make it harder. Like they can make it harder again, but that's not the ideal way to do it. So it does kind of suck that there's a moving goalposts feel for some of the people doing Mythic. But look, ultimately, I think there's just something to be said about like what's the participation in the Mythic game mode. Certainly, we had a few questions about that when last week we saw that, or was it 2 weeks ago? But there was a
pieces.
Yeah, what?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking
about Midwinter in Pieces went, but also the Hall of Fame was filled by the Horde, and when the Horde filled it with 100 guilds getting a kill, the Alliance had 9.
Yeah, and apparently, according to KW, there's only 14 Alliance guilds in the Hall of Fame right now. So yeah, it's.
Good luck if you want cross faction Zoval.
Yeah, it's not going to happen unless they flick the button.
Or cross realm.
Yeah, so there's as Sam Pritchard said, is it not meeting the target because less people are playing, or is it that much harder? And I think it's, as we were talking about last week, I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah,
I think it's like, you definitely need to make this game differently if you want loads of people to do Mythic. Differently is a very big category of what you could do. But you definitely need to move somewhere in there.
I guess the question for the Mythic Raiders is, do you think the mode is functional with its dual purpose of being the Race to World First is an unofficial competition, but Blizzard stay in the office to monitor it and do bug fixes and shit. So it does have official support.
Yeah,
you may as well say that it's an officially supported game mode. Ultimately, from Blizzard's perspective, it's not really that. It's just that these are the first people doing their raid. Therefore, they do need to fix any issues that pop up. But I don't know. Is the Mythic difficulty working? I'm not sure.
I would...
I mean, I don't mean that. I mean, like, literally, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest it doesn't appear to be based on what's happening here. I also think it's something to do with, because I had an interesting thought when you talked about, the mythic rating guilds and the skill gap between players. There's also, I think, the interesting thing about, whenever someone leaves from the top of a mythic guild, not from the top of the guild, but from a mythic guild, from a Race to World First guild, they replenish that rank. But they'll replenish that rank from, basically there'll be this group at the top that are like Race to World First. And then there'll be this pool of players, maybe like a ladder, if you think about it that way, of other Mythic Raiders. And every time someone leaves from this one, they don't go back down into the ladder of Mythic Raiders. They most likely quit the game. Otherwise, they would stay there. Or they quit raiding and maybe stay in the game. But then they have to replenish from this pool of Mythic Raiders. And I think that Mythic raiding pool of like people good enough to join a Race to World First guild is getting smaller. But then those Race to World First guilds have the organization, they have the ability to support players so they can get better. It's that kind of thing where, they kind of pull people up from this pool, churn them out. Not literally, but in terms of how people like just quit the game over time. And it feels like they're kind of like working their way through all these players, elevating them up to Race to World First level, and then they're leaving. So it's like the Mythic Raider pool who aren't in that like elite are probably just getting smaller over time. Maybe I've made all that up, who knows? But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This is something that we are planning to take a look at then with the guild clear rate of Sepulchre across all difficulties. So
yeah,
as best as we can, we are going to try to provide you with some data and insights on this. Just help understand. Of course, in a way that does cover all the difficulties.
Yeah.
Our next thing then is the Mythic Plus Hero title has had some requirement changes.
Yes.
So instead of requiring a rating within the top 0.1% of their faction, it is now for the whole region, including both Horde and Alliance. So essentially, it's way more normalized. It won't be maybe easier in one faction because you could say, it could be easier in one faction, right? So they've essentially done that, I guess, just to increase overall fairness. For some players, though, wherever this new 0.01% rating falls, it could be higher or lower than what it would have been previously for you. So maybe you'll have to go a bit harder.
Yeah. So what this really will do, and this is an assumption on my end, based on a very loose principle, but this will just push more Alliance players over to Horde. Because if you're struggling to get that, it's now harder. It now means that you have a better chance on Horde because that's where better players are, that's where better groups are. Because obviously Horde's where, all the Mythic Raiders are.
Yeah.
So that just means Alliance is going to bleed out further because they don't get special treatment. So you just hop over to Horde to try to do it instead. I mean, that's probably a very, very, very minor point, but that's just a fun thought. Just a fun thought of how that probably had a purpose, but not anymore. Also, it technically covers for them moving to a cross-faction feature.
Oh, shit, that too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like a requirement then, basically.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. We've worked it out.
Indeed.
The next thing then is the new Mythic Plus season, which actually is, it's got one or two neat things. There's a little bit of narrative tied into it, which I think is just cool. It's not a massive amount, but it's basically the Dreadlords have infiltrated stuff, and Cartel Tal are just giving you like a bounty to hunt them down, and also some portals to take you to all the dungeons. And it's a small little touch, but it's just nice to see the gameplay mechanics be reflected via some in-game story, which they don't get for free in this patch because they don't have an A-plot in this patch, so they had to add just a little bit to make it work. I thought it was just a nice touch that they did that.
Yeah,
as for the actual affix itself, well, you basically choose a bounty that's a secondary stat, okay? And whenever you defeat one of these Dreadlords, and the Dreadlords are like disguised mobs, so in mob packs, whenever you defeat them, you get 2% of that secondary stat. That, of course, stacks. And also when you defeat them, you get plus, is it like 6% per second for the next... You basically just get a HP and mana regen buff, which just means you can kind of keep a nice brisk pace. So I think the healers will really appreciate that. So it seems like a nice little one. We'll have to see how it plays out, of course. But there's even things like they went to the detail of whenever they are defeated, one of the brokers actually comes in and imprisons them. Yeah. So this actually adds to a little narrative of the brokers are going around imprisoning these guys. And also, they could have just had them die and you get a buff. But no, they went to a little bit extra effort to theme it up, and I think that's really that's appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the kind of stuff I feel like the developers can do whenever they're kind of, I was about to say unhinged. That's not the right word for it. Unchained, when they kind of don't have all these considerations to deal with. Kind of, oh well, how does this fit into the A plot? How does this fit into all these plots? Whenever they are allowed to go, do whatever you think's cool. I think they probably have a lot more freedom to go, what if brokers come in and kidnap the Dreadlords? And then that would be kind of cool. And then you would go and get the bounty. Oh yeah, so you're kind of like involving yourself with these Shadowlands characters in ways that, you know, we didn't before. You're like, yeah, fucking swell, great, fantastic.
Yeah, so that's what they actually do. They have a frontal cone to dodge. They have pools that put you to sleep.
Oh yes, I love Lords of Dread. Haha.
Vampire Claws, which heals an enemy for 250% of the damage dealt, and you can use some immunities to get around that. Nice. So there you go. It just seems like a nice little sort of themed up mechanic.
For sure.
And yeah, don't really think there's too much else to get into. Although it is nice. You have Gorgrond, Karazhan, and Mechacon portals, which is generally handy for doing this content. But of course, you'll have these portals even if you're not doing this content, which will be quite handy for getting around the world. So all in all, good shit. Next then, not much to say here, but it's just an indication of progress being made. So the Season 4 Fated Raid loot tables are currently being updated. Some more work has happened there, so you can sort of see the item levels that we're going to be dealing with. Now, Dakor did have a few questions, like will there be a new round of legendaries?
Hope not.
How will those work?
I really hope not.
Just give us an item to click it and upgrade them, or something very simple that just kind of is like out of the way, done. I think that's probably the easiest way to get around it.
For sure.
Oh yeah, and then also we've had the same set of consumables the whole time. Which is
probably,
a bit odd.
Probably an economic thing. Or actually, no, it's obvious what that is. They've just said all the crafting people and professions people are working on the new crafting system for Dragonflight, instead of implementing new tiers and like balancing new consumables and stuff. So I imagine that's the answer. Just, do we need more? No. Go work on next thing.
Yeah,